Oh, hello there. It is here. I need to get a voiceover guy to come in. You're listening to the Major Spoilers Podcast Network now. From Studio A at the Major Spoilers HQ, it's finally Friday. I need somebody to do that. Who's the guy that does the old Art Bell intros? Is he still around? Is he still available? Come on in, hang out with us, do some fun things. We're going to get this thing going. Finally Friday is being brought to you this week by Major Spoilers VIP and Patreon members from around the world. You can show your support for everything we do at Major Spoilers by pointing your browser to patreon.com/majorspoilers and signing up today. Oh, look at you. Look at you, dear internet. Look how wonderful you look today. Oh. And you forget to do that. What's going on here? Oh, yeah, that's it. Right there. And then we'll do that. And then we'll do that. Oh, look, internet, there you are. Peekaboo. You're looking lovely today. Is there anything interesting going on in the world? I don't know, because I was outside my convenience store this morning because I had to stop in and get some gas, and there were two guys, obviously not wearing their masks, who looked like they were in deep thought about something, just standing right there in front of the door, blocking everyone's way. And one of them's like, "Oh man, this is serious. I don't know." And the other one's like, "Yep, this is definitely serious. I don't know what we're going to do now." And the other one's like, I have no idea what those two guys were talking about. Maybe you guys do. Maybe there's something going on in the world, and maybe somebody's finally paying attention to it. Maybe you should wear your masks. That's all I can say. Hey. Happy Friday to you, Mr. Sin Hunter. And History Table and Mark Smith 72. You know, I think Mark Smith 72 was born in 72. Also, there's a history table over there, sitting right next to the periodic table. And a water table. So I got some things to share. Now, for those of you who listen to the Dueling Review podcast, you may have heard hints of this. I don't know whether Matthew and I were talking about this, and this has kind of developed over the last couple of weeks and months, perhaps, as I'm reviewing #1 issues from publishers. Now, I will still stand behind as we get into this today. And feel free to share your thoughts, reactions, etc., because I know some of you still love comic books and the comic book stores for as long as that they will be hanging around. You remember Back the Comeback? How many of you backed the comeback? Did you wear your shirts and go in and buy hundreds of thousands of dollars? No? You didn't save the stores with Back the Comeback. You can certainly go and do the auction that's coming up, right? You can take all of your prized possessions, all your comic book memorabilia, and prized possessions that you don't want anymore, and you can give them to Heritage Auctions, which I really like, heritageauctions.com, and some other group. And they're going to auction off for you all of your memorabilia and comic book stuff to the highest bidder. And then they're going to take those proceeds and divvy it up evenly to comic book stores in need. That's an idea. I'm not sure I follow it, but I mean, if you're looking for comic book memorabilia and merchandise and those kinds of things, now might be a good time to go bid on some of that stuff. Get some of the stuff you've been looking for years. Maybe that Jim Lee cover you can finally afford, or some props or memorabilia. And in the process, help comic book stores, help your local store. I love comic books, but stores have never been a thing here. I heard that comic books used to be thicker there before comic book stores became a thing. Maybe. I don't know, Lagnus. But many of you know, over the years, I have been a big believer in ditching the single issues and going directly to the trade paperback, or the OGN, as we see some people doing it. Because I think that's great. I mean, you get something. Here's the benefits. And again, let me repeat for those of you who are joining us for the first time. Hello. Steven Schleicher from Majorspoilers.com. How you doing? You look great. Thanks. Come on, sit down. Have a seat. Have a drink. Engage in my monologue for the next 26 minutes. Then I'll be out of here. Out of your hair for another day. So, I'm a firm believer in going direct to the trade. Here's the reason. Number one, you don't have to worry about someone losing track of an issue, right? One of the biggest problems with comic book stores is repeat customers. Either someone comes in and they're looking for something, they buy the book, and then they realize, oh, I'm getting a part of this comic book. Now I have to remember to come back and buy the rest of it. I'm going to forget that. Or they come in and then they buy the first issue and then realize it's too expensive or something that they don't want, and then they're gone. And the problem is, you may look at X of Sword #1 and say, oh my gosh, this is going to be the greatest thing since Marvel decided that they were going to launch the West Coast Avengers initiative. And they may have bought 300 issues of that first issue, or even maybe 1 million copies of that first issue. And now they're stuck with 999,005 copies of that issue. And what are they going to do with it? Especially if they don't come back for #2. The other thing is, we see sales as new issues come out. There are some that actually increase in sales as a series comes out, but for the most part, they drop. So the sales of #1 really high, sales of issue 6 really, really low. So why not just cut out the middleman and just go right direct to trade? So someone comes in, they see the new comic book that they want, they pluck it off the shelf, they pay the proprietor of the store $24, and maybe in a year or 6 months or 3 months, whenever a publisher wants to release a new trade or a direct to trade or trade first, maybe I should call it a trade first. Which one of those do you like more? Trade first? Direct to trade? Direct to trade is more along the lines of what we see with movies and television, right? Direct to video, direct to series. The other thing about having that trade collection is it's got a longer shelf life. You know, you're only going to keep a single issue of a series up for a couple of weeks before it has to go away so you can put more merchandise on the shelf. And that means that, 6 months from now, people can come in, they can have easy access to this. This is why bookstores for the most part work, right? They have huge sections of trade paperbacks. This is why those OGNs sell so well at bookstores. So why aren't comic book stores doing this? Why aren't publishers doing this? So that they can grip and gripe and clench their teeth and gnash their teeth and clench their jaw, their fists and clutch at their pearls saying, oh, floppies, they're so expensive. We're never going to make any money. I'll go directly to trade and just cut out the middleman. If your story's good enough, it'll hold. Look again at the Earth 1 series that DC put out. It sells great. New York Times bestseller. For what the New York Times bestseller is worth. And some publishers have slowly been starting to do that. Boom Studios has slowly been starting to do that. I think IDW Publishing, and there's a couple of others that go direct to trade. I think Black Mask has done a couple of those, whether they will go direct to trade or OGN. And so that gives you a chance to go in and buy that physical copy, get the entire 6 or 12 issue, what would essentially be 6 to 12 issues all in one book, and you don't have to worry about coming back. You don't have to worry about forgetting. You don't have to worry about your store not being open on the day that you wanted to go and buy that issue. This is great for new customers. Again, go back a couple of weeks when I ranted about Dogman. Now, that should have you all caught up. Oh, we're in a why comic books business sucks? No. I'm not saying comic book business sucks. I'm in the mood of, here's another idea. Comic book publishers, if you are dead set on releasing single issues, then maybe here's another thought and another idea that you might want to try. If you listen to my review of what is the Ravens? What the heck is that comic book that I just reviewed? Clash of Ravens or Group of Ravens or gosh, what the heck is that? Now I forgot what it was. It's over on the Major Spoilers website. You can see a sneak peek of it right now. Well, I know I just shared a first look of it just today or the other day from Boom Studios. And I was really pleased when I reviewed this on the Major Spoilers podcast. I was really pleased. An Unkindness of Ravens. That's the name of the series. An Unkindness of Ravens from Boom Studios. This is what happens when I have to go get my kid. Whoops, that's not the one that I want. There we go. An Unkindness of Ravens from Boom Studios. This is a really fascinating book. I really dug the first issue. Problem is, by the time we got to the end of the first issue, I was kind of saying, man, I want a little bit more. I want to see what happens next. I want to see more of this story. And I felt like the issue ended in a really weird place. Matthew and I reviewed a comic a couple of weeks ago on the Dueling Review podcast. Maybe it was, Stillwater #1. They're really kind of spooky. I mean, it's an interesting hook and an interesting build-up. And then it just kind of ended. And we were like, well, we felt like we needed a little bit more to this first issue before we were willing to commit to, all 5 or all 6 or however many issues the series goes. And for limited series, which is what a lot of small independent publishers do, 6 issues, 10 issues, 12 issues, 5 issues, whatever it may be, 4 issues in some cases. Dark Horse has been kind of messing around with 4 issues. Why not release issues 1 and 2 either A, on the same day, which I'm not really a big fan of that. I know they did that with Image Comics with that Skybound series, Firepower, where they released issues 1 and 2 on the same day. But why not just release issue 1 and 2 as the same issue, as issue #1? So what you end up getting is a double-size issue, which has a lot of stuff in it. And if it's really good after the end of issue 2, that should be enough, or at the end of that first issue, basically 2 issues together. That should be enough then to hook people to come back and get the other 5 issues in a 6-issue mini, for example. And if you want to, I think that will draw people in a little bit more. Now, the thing is that you have to think about is cost, right? I would argue that, for example, let's go back to Firepower or An Unkindness of Ravens that I was just talking about. Boom Studios release issues 1 and 2 as a single 1 issue. You don't even have to say that it's 2 issues in 1. You could say it's double size, bonus size, 2 issues in 1 if you want, but don't label it issue 1 and issue 2. It's just issue 1, but it contains 2 comics worth of content. Sell it for $4.99. That's a bargain. 48 pages of comics for $4.99. That's a bargain in today's comic book marketplace. And then when issue number 2 comes out, which is really issue number 3, you sell it for $3.99 or $2.99. Sell the first issue for $3.99, the second issue for $2.99. A lot of people like to buy the first issue, so make it worth their while. Make it worth their anticipation. Make it worth their excitement. Make it worth their time, effort, and money so that they look at this and go, wow, this is a big double-sized issue. This is so good. I want to read the next one and get that next one out right away. Yeah, granted, you're still probably going to wait a month, but also make it cheaper than they paid for the first issue. Maybe in the long run, you lose out on a little bit of money, but I'm going to bet your sales are more flat over that 5-issue run of essentially what is a 6-issue miniseries. I bet you're going to have more flatter sales curve than one that declines as each subsequent issue comes out. Now, I know this isn't going to work for everybody, because the thing is, when you pick up a Batman comic book, you know what you're getting out of a Batman comic book. You know what you're getting out of Wonder Woman and Superman and Green Lantern and Spider-Man and Iron Man and Thor and all the other mans that are out there in the spandex world. But for series like An Unkindness of Ravens, which no one really knows what it is unless they go over to majorspoilers.com and check out the sneak peek and the previews and maybe read a little quote or an interview about the comic book, it's going to be much harder for people to say, well, do I really want to invest this money in 1 issue? Maybe I'll pick it up and flip through it at the comic book shop if your comic book shop allows you to pick things up and flip through them. But just imagine how much more interest people would have in your limited run miniseries if you release 2 issues in a single book, charged them $4.99 the same price, and then over the course of the next 5 issues, you drop the price by $1. Not for each subsequent issue, but, keep it $3.99. Why not do both and see if OGNs or singles sell the most? Well, I think we're seeing that already. where I think we're also seeing some people say, oh, wait, the OGNs are actually doing better for us. Look at the Lumberjanes, for example, in their OGNs, especially for YA stuff, because that's the stuff, if you've got it direct in an OGN, makes it much easier to get into the hands of, Scholastic or Penguin Random House, so that they can distribute those to the bookstores and to the kids in the schools. But I know that some people are still super resistant to the direct to trade, or trade first. Spandex Man. He wears spandex. He shoots spandex out of his spinneret, which is in his butt. Well, Agnes, that's what I've been saying. Release the whole thing as a trade from the start, you cowards. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. That's the problem. They're slowly starting to come onto that, but if they need this intermediate step, then pack the two issues into one. I'm a 100% trade guy myself, apart from one mail subscription, so yeah. Autumnal was also very great. The hook at the end was great, but $4 or $5 to get a hook and be done was disappointing. I'm sure the series will be great, but it's begging for a trade, says History Table. There you go. I have way too many hobbies and way too little money to read new single issues. I can see that. Go direct to trade. Put expanded sneak peeks out so people can figure out if they want it. What's the one that we just did recently? I don't know if I'll be able to find it on the website. But just recently we ran a sneak peek, and it's a upcoming, I think it is a direct-to-trade book. And they sent like 20 pages of this book to us. And I was like, yeah, I'll run 20 pages of comics for you. No problem. That's definitely going to give people a feel or a flavor for what's coming up. I don't see it here just popping out at me. Single issue comics in general, talking about the big ones, are too focused on getting you to buy more comics to be worth picking up. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that this idea, either the direct to trade, although DC is doing it with the Earth 1 stuff, or the double-sized first issue. I don't think those are for DC and Marvel. Because again, you know what you're getting from your Spandex Man comics. You know what you're getting. You know, Spider-Man feels down, he can't pay his rent, he goes out and punches some bad guys, is able to make his rent on time, wash, rinse, repeat. I like Spider-Man, don't get me wrong. Tony Stark, he's a man in a can, kind of a dick. He goes out and does some things. He's still a man in the can. I don't think it works for that. But I think for smaller publishers, they might want to start looking at new ways to attract new readers and get them to stick on. Because really, 6-issue miniseries from a company like Boom Studios or from Dynamite or from IDW Publishing or even Dark Horse these days, I think that there's not enough. They have to put a bunch of marketing behind their 6-issue miniseries to get that to rise above the rest of the noise when you're competing against Spandex Man. But if you can say, hey, we are Boom Studios and all of our first issues from now going forward are going to be double-sized, or all of our new story arcs, in the case of something like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, we're going to kick off a new story arc with a double-sized issue. I think that's going to get a lot more people's attention and maybe a lot more people dropping their money, especially if you kept the price at $4.99, which means for 2 comics you're essentially selling it for $2.50. But aren't just comics lost leaders these days so that you can keep your IP and sell it to Netflix and to Disney and to Warner Brothers and to whoever else, Lion Forge and Lionsgate and all that other stuff? Yeah, so a few years ago, there was a big deal that Image basically had a trade paperback ready to go with issue number 6. And I think it was I don't know if it was the very next month that the trade was ready to go, or if it was just like 2 or 3 weeks later that the trade paperback was ready to go. But yes, essentially right once issue 6 dropped, they had a trade ready to go. I don't know if they still do that or not. And who knows, since pandemic, whether that has altered, trade release schedules or anything like that. The only way to keep comic book stores alive is to slowly strangle comic book publishers. Then I think there's if the only way to keep comic book stores alive is to slowly strangle comic book publishers, then I think there's a problem somewhere. I don't think these ideas are strangling anyone. Especially since if you go back into the Finally Friday archives where I did the math, where you're actually going to end up making more money in the long run going direct to trade rather than single issues, especially in miniseries form, you're not strangling anybody. Oni Press doing what they did with Scott Pilgrim. They made a crap ton of money off of that. Once the other guy does it and is successful, the big guys will follow. That's also a problem. Formulaic, never-ending stories that ultimately don't matter. Which is why I think, when you go and pick up a Lumberjanes or you go and pick up a Gaggle of Ravens, an Unkindness of Ravens. I mean, we are in a semi-binge culture right now. That's what a direct-to-trade addresses, right? I mean, used to be a long time ago, many, many years ago. If you wanted to read the latest Dickens novel, you had to go and buy it in chapters, right? Or if you wanted to read the latest detective story, you had to go buy Black Mask, and maybe it was serialized over 5 or 6 issues. Now you want to read a book, the new Bobaverse book that's out, I think maybe Dresden Files may be a bad example here in this particular new release. But the new Bobaverse book, you get the whole book. Why not do the same with comic books? Why not do the same with comic books? Also, something else that is starting to happen right now, and I think it's just a result of the pandemic and not so much of some new business practice that they tuned into. It looks like comic book publishers are actually publishing fewer comics and increasing the scarcity on those comics. Now, I don't know that for certain. It could just be that sales are down, which I also suspect that that's it. But in uncertain times, as you're starting to get the industry back up, are you going to really go out and print 50,000 copies of, I don't know, not to disparage anyone, but I'll just pick 50,000 copies of Batgirl, only to have like 1,000 of them sell? Or 25,000 of them sell? Yeah, so the problem with digital comics, and this is a problem that I think the Unlimited structure is starting to break, especially with Archie Comics. So Archie Comics announced 2 weeks ago, this time 2 weeks ago, I believe, or maybe it was just this last Friday, that they were going to take all of their new comics and they were going to release them on the same day on Comixology Original as the single-issue digital copies were released and as the physical copies were released in comic book stores. And yes, it's Archie, and I know a lot of people don't read Archie, and a lot of people still think Archie is a joke, but it's really not. They're doing some very smart things at Archie Comics. And the upshot of that is now you're paying whatever the Comixology Unlimited services were cost per month. I don't know what it is. $8.99, something like that. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I can guarantee you it's cheaper than 5 comic books. And you instantly have access to all of those new issues that come out. That suddenly makes Comixology Unlimited a great bargain for me. And I'm sure it's something that the brick and mortar stores haven't thought about. But the upshot is, it's now more worth my time to dive into a monthly subscription, because monthly subscriptions are pretty easy to get people hooked onto. And then as these new comics come out, you just pick them up. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait 6 months. The way DC works with the Unlimited, or Marvel works with the Unlimited, is you have to wait 6 months before that issue appears for free, essentially for free with your subscription. And so you're going to be perpetually 6 months behind and not have access to everything. In order for the price to drop, and this was one of the concessions that I think the publishers made with the brick and mortars, was that if they were going to release comics day and date, which many people were screaming about, they had to release it at the same price as the print comic, because otherwise it would have, the brick and mortar store owner said, it will destroy us if you do this. Everyone will stop buying print comics and they'll go out, rush out and buy that 99-cent version of the comic in digital format, and it will kill us. And the publisher said, okay, fine, we'll do day and date release, and we will also release it with the same cover price. But I think what Archie is doing is probably going to be the first brick taken out of the wall, and everything is going to collapse pretty quick. And then I think you're going to see day and dates drop to 99 cents. Same with video games. Physical disc is cheaper than download, not counting you can sell or borrow the physical. Why did they lock themselves into the X99 price scheme? Do you see that ever changing? Okay, so I kind of already addressed that. Because it was one of those things. I mean, you have this new thing. I mean, you have to go back, 12 years, 14 years? However long the iPad has been around, when that first iPad released and the first Marvel app was available and people were able to buy comics that way. Oh, brick and mortars just went ballistic on that. I could buy collective Swedish comics in thicker special albums, or a 58-page comic cheaper here than a single regular issue on Comixology. I don't know what to tell you on that. Good on you. Good on you, Sweden. I gotta say that I'm not caring about being current with my Marvel. It's made Marvel Unlimited a heck of a deal. Of course, a lot of people are big fans of Marvel Unlimited, but now just imagine how much more valuable that Marvel Unlimited subscription would be when everything switches to, when Marvel jumps on board and says, yes, we will also be releasing our comics on the same day on our Unlimited series as they arrive for full price at the comic book store. That'll be a big changer. And I don't think with Archie, I don't think brick and mortars take them too seriously. You know, although Archie has been a big leader in stuff, LGBTQ representation, taking beloved properties and turning them into horror properties, actually making the zombie genre work in an Archie comic, making Sabrina the Teenage Witch a real scary comic book, the upcoming one-shot with Madam Satan, really making those really spooky and really making people want those books. Archie's very smart about that stuff. So I think they're very smart in releasing and making that Comixology Unlimited service a little bit more attractive by getting access to those comics same day as print. But bottom line for me is, here's my order of preference. Direct to trade. Take the next 6 issue of Fantastic Four, direct to trade it. Take the next 6 issues of An Unkindness of Ravens, direct to trade it. Take Atomic Robo, direct... Oh, wait, they already do that through their Kickstarter. They already go direct to trade. I mean, they go to single issues on the web for free, and then if you want it, it's in trade paperback form. Second preference, double up the first issue. Keep it the $4.99 price, and then for the next 5 issues in your 6-issue miniseries, drop the price to $3.99. Give people another reason to hang on to that series a little bit longer. Third, drop the price of digital comics for day and date release to 99 cents. Do you think that helps the creators? I'd imagine so, just in terms of workload, just an assumption though. Probably doesn't help creators because essentially you have to do a 28-page comic in 30 days. That's the writing, that's the art, that's the everything, depending on how your schedule works. So yeah, you have to move fairly quickly. So if you were to say, hey man, you got another start of a 6-issue arc coming up, you better, get those 60 issues in, or those 60 pages in 30 days. That's going to be really tough for artists. That's why I think this works for limited series, because you can build that up ahead of time and get those 2 issues in over the course of 2 months, then release in month 3, and then you've got issues 2, 3, 4, and 5 right back on schedule. I think that works. Recently, Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips did Pulp. That was a direct to trade book. worked out very well. It's a great story. I would have hated to read that in multiple parts. And they do just get paid less per page, depending on, right? Because, again, the sales curve over time for a series goes like this. For most series, it's a downward curve, right? But if you can keep that curve flat, you actually end up probably making more money in the long run. Step 5, make Stephen L. Presidente of comics. His version is worthy. Aw, thank you so much, Lagnus. I appreciate that. I'm a terrible socialist who hates money. Well, it's a good thing we can all have oh, wait, we don't have universal health care. Way to end it on a down note there, Malone. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining me this week on A Finally Friday, where I get to rant about things that are going on, talk to you, find out what's going on in the news. No news this week. Well, I mean, there's news this week, like James Bond being pushed off to 2021. Like, we didn't see that coming. There's other crazy news that's going on in the world. I hope you're safe wherever you are. But maybe here we can have a little talk about comics and things maybe we could do with comics and fun things about comics. Talk about new upcoming comics and comic book news, comic book rumors. Thank you so much to everyone who is a patron over at patreon.com/majorspoilers. Your support helps keep everything we do at Major Spoilers going. And we are getting close to, I think I'm going to cap, I think what I'm going to do is cap our patron numbers at 1,000. So when we hit 1,000 members, I will allow no more members to come on board. So I'm going to introduce some scarcity. So if you want to become a patron now and ensure your spot, head over to patreon.com/majorspoilers today. Sign up. Something as little as $2 a month is great. $5 is basically $1 an episode for Finally Friday. That would really help us out a great deal. And if you can spare $5 right now, I would certainly appreciate it. I know everyone else who makes things go at Major Spoilers would appreciate it as well, including the Robot Overlord, who's telling me to wrap it up because I got to go pick up my kid. So anyway, thank you so much again. We will see everyone tomorrow, 3 o'clock p.m. Central Time, maybe a little bit sooner, 3 o'clock p.m. Central Time as we do some gaming. I think we're getting back into Assassin's Creed this week. So please come hang out and watch me burn myself time and time again. It's a thing. And until next time, do good, be good, and we'll see you soon. Look at all those fine patrons. Ah, you're welcome, Lagnus. Mulan probably didn't do as well as they thought. But a lot of that was because of boycotting from... a lot of boycotts going on around that movie. Oh, Bluey, you just saw your name go by. Oh, Brian. And Brian. Oh, and Bruce. And the other Bruce. And CW and Charlie and Charles and Cindy and... Cindy. No candies. We need to get some candies on board. Maybe an unboxing in a week or so. That'll be fun. Hope you have a great weekend. You're all awesome. I don't care what anyone says. I think you're cool. Unless, of course, you're not. And if you're a terrible human being, I don't think you're cool. But I'm pretty sure everyone who's hanging out and watching this, I think you're probably pretty cool people.